So, namaste everybody. We come with yet another talk as decided yesterday. Namaste everybody. And it is association, dissociation. And this came up as a part of the conversation yesterday. And we said we've always been taking topics, write whatever is being discussed. Today, unfortunately, one of my panelists, her uncle has expired, so she cannot be there. And yeah, life goes on. And along with that, people go on. You have to constantly keep moving, associated or dissociated. People don't stop doing what they do. So let's go over to my panelists and let's see what insights can they bring for today's topic. So let's go over to Sumita Mendirata. Um, if you can please introduce yourself and how do you relate to this topic, association, dissociation?
Hi everyone in the panel and on Facebook. I'm Sumita Mendirata. I'm a consultant clinical psychologist and counselor, a mental health coach using various strategies like EFT practitioner, matrix reimprinting, and also brain gym, which I'm a movement facilitator, and also a read-on therapist. So, Anu, the words association and dissociation, according to the psychological dictionary, I would say, is basically connecting towards your, they are basically like a coping strategies, first of all, which are created by us. Association means connecting to your inward, inner thoughts, and, it's you are making a connections, towards your inwards senses. And dissociation is somewhere you are disassociating, like, you are disconnecting, or you are being outward stimuli to your outward senses, environment around you. So both ways, I would say it is just a creation which we have made out of it, to just either disconnect or connect. So it could be with your memory, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, So actually, psychological, the DSM-5 has got disorders named as dissociative disorders. They have been termed like this because there are a lot of areas. So it's like a disease actually, which is being treated. So
Yes.
in a mental health connection. So definitely, association is we always make it to good things, and association dissociation is something which you don't want to remember, so you disconnect. So it's like a good versus bad or positive versus negative. What we make for ourselves, not necessarily it is. So
Wow.
that's my view. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's go over to Dr. Rashmi Arora. Really acknowledge she has not been well yesterday and she's still there on the forum. So brilliant. Well done. So,
Thank you, Anu. Uh, very good evening to all the viewers and everybody on the panel. I'm Dr. Rashmi Arora. I'm a homeopathic practitioner from Delhi, a mental health trainer, and an NLP practitioner. This topic started when the idea of this topic came in when we had a conversation last evening about it. So, what I understand from it as a homeopath, like Sumita just said, it's about connection and non-connection. So, how do we use as homeopaths? That's very important, and I'm very eager to understand what it is more from other people from other walks of life also. Association, as she said, is something which we connect inwards. So, when we connect inwards, we do not have we feel complete. So we do not have those symptoms or diseases. But when there is a dissociation, we have a wide range of diseases, whether it is in the DSM-5, which calls it as a group of diseases or not. It could range from a mild thing to a major thing. So when a homeopathic medicine is taken into consideration, which acts on the psyche, body, and the mind. So people who are dissociated exhibit certain kinds of behaviors. That behavior we take into consideration, whether it is on the physical level or on the mental level, and then select the homeopathic medicine for those particular people. So, this is how I use it in my practice, and I would love to hear from other people and understand more about it. Thank you so much.
thank you so much for that. Let's go with to Yogini Thakkar. Yogini, introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. My name is Yogini, and I'm a mind coach and a past life regression therapist. Use various modalities like EFT, imagery, breathing techniques that help people come out of their issues, be it at any level. So I'll work a lot. My favorite people to work with is women because I think women hold the most in their hearts and their minds. So when I heard of this topic, this is probably a meta health concept, and my first thing was being associated with the world or disassociated with the world. But after hearing the real definition that Sumita and Dr. Rashmi told, I would tell you that I think it's more important to, it's an irony actually. You need to disconnect from the world to associate with yourself. And that seems to be the key link here from what I understood. So when you get disconnected from the world, you are associated with yourself, and more you are associated with the world, you're somewhere disconnected with yourself because there will always be a conflict otherwise. You can't be associated with the world, agree to everyone in the world, as well as agree to your heart. So to associate with yourself, please disconnect from the world. That's more important. So it's interesting. I didn't know this concept, but in our meditation world, when I teach energy harnessing, we call this as grounding. How grounded you are, how present you are in the moment is what I understand. If I'm wrong, please clarify. But it's how grounded you are and how present you are in the moment. And some of the great examples are, I was just watching Australian Open right before this call. There's an amazing match going on. And those players are so grounded and they're so associated with themselves right now. And that's what gives them the focus to play. So it's more about, my understanding comes that it is focusing on what you need, focusing on the present. And that comes with great players, great speakers, great orators, actors. It's when you are totally immersed in what you love doing or totally immersed in what you're passionate about, is when you're truly associated with yourself.
Thank you, Yogini. So, from what we have learned by Carl Dawson, that is matrix reimprinting, which is a higher level of EFT, uh, association and dissociation are the main aspects on which we work. Dissociation, according to Carl Dawson, happens when we deal with any stressful event. It can be a death of a loved one, it can be an accident that happened, it can be that your teacher slapped you, it can be that you saw parents fighting in front of you, it can be a big trauma or a small trauma that happens at that time. Big traumas are generally ones where we are not prepared for these traumas. These are sudden events that happen in life. And small t traumas are the traumas which are happening in everyday life. They're not very big if you look at, but the impact of them can be huge on your psyche. The way we deal with our issues or when these incidents happen is that we split up from ourselves. So, what a lot of people called inner child is basically you split up from yourself, which is called dissociation. If you look at the word dissociation, des means no, not associated, not connected, not there. And so we have little children like this. We have little dissociated parts of us, which Carl Dawson lovingly calls it the echoes. Echoes is electric holograms which are present around our body. These electric holograms are around ourselves, like really like mushrooms around us. And so you have a lot of these inner child, people call it inner child work, but this is not really inner child work that I'm talking about. I'm talking about matrix reimprinting, where everything is held in a blueprint and the little U's are also held in this blueprint. In this blueprint, you have yourself at birth, maybe because there was a birth trauma that happened when you were 2, when you were 3, when you were 4. What really happened was that Carl Dawson was doing tapping, and his client suddenly says, "Hey, I can see myself. I can see myself at 5 years of age." And Carl Dawson is not visual, so he had never seen himself, even when he was working with EFT on himself. So he said, okay, he kept going with it and said to her, okay, why don't you tap on that person that you can see? And that's how the birth of matrix reimprinting happened, where the lady started tapping on that echo or that 3-year-old or 5-year-old that she saw. So next he said, hey, what is she wearing? And when they started working with these echoes, and I was part of his first group that was introduced in Prague in 2008. He had just inaugurated matrix reimprinting, and I was very lucky to be the part of his first workshop that was held in Czech Republic in Praha. And he said, I was that lady just started tapping, and they found that when they were tapping on this echo or the little one, she had a mind of her own. She had a vocabulary of her own, which did not match the vocabulary of the person who was like maybe 40-year-old at that time. And this is where the whole birth of matrix reimprinting started. And Carl Dawson has been teaching this modality, for which I am one of the trainers, one of the master trainers. And I brought this modality to India, but never really spoke much about it. We did a lot of work, but I work more under the brand of Meta Health, which this is like a big umbrella under which this was also a part of it. So association dissociation got introduced to me in 2008, when I realized that we split up from ourselves because it's important. Otherwise, we couldn't have survived the whole story. I'm going to take 2 minutes more because uh, so, like all of you know, and I've mentioned it before, that I was touched by a man who was old enough to be my grandfather at 6 years of age. When first time I was worked upon by Carl Dawson, that's when if you associate, if you connect child, there is every possibility. Hi, Joe. How are you? Hi, Joe. Yes, very nice. So if you connect back to this child, that the child may attract or may feel danger. And it's very interesting that uh, it's very important in many, many therapies that you be dissociated, because I don't know anyone who goes through a stressful event and stays associated. A part of you will split up, because that's the only way you can survive or hold yourself together. That's one of the strategies. I'll go over to Sumita. I took a lot of time. I generally don't take that much of time, but I just thought I'll bring about a little bit of understanding around association and dissociation from matrix reimprinting point of view. We have a beautiful guest, Joanne. Joanne, if you can introduce yourself. And I believe you're very, very busy today, and I really acknowledge your presence right here despite everything. And I love your presence. Thank you so much for being there. We were talking about association and dissociation, and how everybody defines it. So over to you, Joe.
Hi again, everybody. Sorry to take so long, and I'm not sure how good the connection is. We don't have Wi-Fi here. So we moved to a new apartment yesterday. So it's all a bit crazy this morning. And I think I missed the bit that I was just really looking forward to, which is the matrix description of the association and dissociation, because I'm really interested. So I think I'll have to catch up with that on the Facebook. Yeah, this is something that really interests me in terms of both working on myself and working with clients, is to really understand the difference between being associated into a problem and dissociated and what we can do about it. So it'll be a really interesting talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So let's go over to Sumita. Sumita, uh, have there ever been times in your life when you went through a trauma and you could make out that something is not the way it should be? You didn't feel like yourself. You felt like you just, like, most of us not even aware that we are dissociated, but it's almost like you will feel that people are saying, I don't feel anything. I'm fine. I'm numb. I'm frozen. These are the frozen bits of us. So any such experience that you've ever gone through with your client or yourself?
With my clients, definitely not. I would understand in my initial years of practice, I would say, but gradually, as I learned more about it and understood it from the point of view of EFT and matrix, definitely it made a lot of sense. So they were those parts of your personality, of their personality, what they would just miss out. They would not even remember. And so when we are doing tapping, as we can connect, some people call it even hypnotherapy. They would ask me, are you doing some hypnotherapy? Why are you asking us to tap? Because they believe that I'm taking them to something, but I would just, this is just a relaxation bit, and it'll help you to talk in a comfort zone. And they would just get connected to, so that would be association what they would make, that they would directly go to that event or that situation without even my, because I would tell them, just talk about what's troubling you or what's happening with you. That is the association their mind, the brain makes immediately, because they know what to talk about. And when we are going deeper into it, and at that time, like you said, explained in the matrix, so there was a part, and they would just say that this is happening, and they would make a connection, and then suddenly they would come about a part, and because they are in their conscious state, so they would just say and stop and say, no, 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 this is not something we wanted. I don't think this happened, because something what they viewed in there or mentally thought about it, or heard something, but not ready to accept. And then you have to really tell them that's okay, you can talk about it. And then suddenly when they would talk about the whole story, and then when they would consciously become aware about it and be in the present, so it was very difficult for them to accept that, did it really happen? Is it? Why I forgot it? How could I forget it? And the same thing has happened with me, when I was taking sessions with you. So when I went through my abuse, and it was absolutely like a lost story for me. And the connection came at a time when I was coming for some other reason therapy, and I was entering into a new phase of my life, and suddenly these things came up. So for me also, it was hard to believe that. So definitely it has happened. And also, what I understand as of today, if I say, there were a part, bits of my life where, when I was going through all these pains, so what actually I would do, to reduce that trauma and this thing, when I would be in the front of the doctor, actually now I recall those moments, and I would just be very dissociated. I would just go mute. I would not even, talk. So I remember sometimes the doctors would keep asking me, "We don't talk." Just, I mean, was it a child behavior or something? But I was so stubborn, because I had in my mind that even if I tell them I have pain, they will not believe me. So why should I open my mouth and unnecessarily get all the story again? Because once I had that experience, and every time, so I remember the final doctor who believed in me and who treated me. I actually didn't open my mouth in front of him, and he acknowledged that it's okay. He really made me comfortable. I didn't say a single word to him, and he said, I understand you are in a lot of pain. So he just spoke to my parents. He said, I don't want to talk to her, it's okay, you just treat her. Come to me after giving this medicine for 2 months, she'll be fine. And I was like, wow. He didn't even talk to me. Very good. Because everybody wanted to talk to me, ask me what is the pain. They would ask me 10 questions and not give me any answer. So actually, what I was doing at that time was like just dissociating myself. And so now I can understand that. And when children come to me, so that my experience, how it helped me take over when I work with children. And when I always tell the parents, I just want you to, so they would say, no, 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 meet my child. I'll say, I'll meet your child, just have some patience. I don't want to enter the child's world until I understand what is the environment about the child. And then when I meet the child, I just meet the child like a friend. I don't even question about his challenges, about his difficulties. We just do some fun tasks. Because until I develop that rapport with the child, why will the child believe me? So I would say it's very, so I make an association with the child to get into his area of dissociation. So I would say that is the way, because what I have suffered, or what I have gone through with the doctor, or with everybody, whomsoever didn't connect with me. So I would say, so first make an association in the present. Very important, because if until and unless that rapport building is done, how can you come to that person's zone of dissociation? Because that is something you don't want to go into. So that's my experience with myself and the clients.
Very beautiful. The highlight of your story was that you were in pain and no one really believed you. And that's exactly where Rashmi has been in for many, many days. That even though she's got this horrible gasping and burping and belching, nobody seems to be believing her, and everybody seems to be saying, you probably are not feeling anxious, you're probably feeling anxiety. And she's saying, no, look, I have a problem. I have a problem. And nobody is ready to believe her. I also spoke to another client of mine yesterday who has got fissures in the anal area, and doctors are not ready to believe that he really has a problem as much as he claiming to be. He's lost weight and everything. Of course, I mean, he has anxiety. Nobody's saying he doesn't have anxiety. You can have anxiety as well as proper symptoms. But nobody seems to be understanding him at all. And his biggest story is, I don't want to be found out. And that's also where we dissociate quite a bit. So thank you for bringing that insight. When a client shows up, we need to believe what he's saying, because he's really believing that he has a problem or she has a problem. And sometimes when you don't have answers, you should be kind enough to find another person for that person. And if you still the person has rapport with you, sit down and talk to them, because there is no harm in saying I don't know, but don't abandon them is very, very important. So over to Yogini. Yogini, what is your experience in your work, whether association, dissociation, or anything to
So,
do with your own life?
so when you now, after understanding what you all said, for me, dissociation means repression of memories. That's the word I would use, where we repress the memories because the brain has certain capacity to absorb, and it doesn't like pain. Nobody likes pain in life. So this is a wonderful thing which can work wonders, because a lot of times we repress the memories of what we don't want to remember because it's creating pain. Very common in abuse, children who are abused. It's also common in accident patients. You actually go through the whole process, but when you wake up you do not remember anything. It's a partial amnesia, but it's actually repressing the memories because it was too painful to remember again. Now, when these memories start creating a problem in the current life, is when you need to dig into that. Unless they're creating a problem, it's better to not touch, because your brain has certain power with which it is trying to repress those memories to not create pain. So it is amazing how the brain works. And personally, as I said, I had this body shaming and bullying in school, and I have repressed those memory to an extent that if someone asked me how were your school days, and I was like, frankly, I don't remember anything about my school days. Only a few good moments with my best friends. That's what I remember. Now when I tap and when I do EFT and I do work on myself, slowly and steadily, when I open up those memories, it's amazing, because none of that actually occurred. Also, the story that I created in my head never occurred. It was my story, my belief, my patterns, which I in fact went and repressed also. So it's very deep, and it can sometimes create so many problems. I remember this client who was again abused by a milkman who used to come every day, couldn't tell parents. She had this repression to an extent that she never told anyone. And when she got married, she could not have a sexual relationship with her husband, who was actually her lover for 5 years. But they couldn't have a relationship because of that fear that one man created in her life. It was so deep that it takes a lot of work to remove that fears and get working. So repression can be good in a lot of ways, but when it starts creating problems, it's good to really go and sensitize and sanitize that memories. It really helps to come out of the problem.
Thank you so much. Let's go over to Dr. Rashmi Arora.
Yes, Anu.
Association, dissociation. So have you ever felt that in your own life?
Anu,
Or
as you explained in the example just now, I have been feeling dissociated for the past few days when I'm trying to tell a problem. I myself am a doctor. And when I listen to people's troubles, I know how I deal with it in my most effective way. But when this trouble is coming up and I cannot, people, when I'm trying to ask help, are not able to understand what I'm going through. Probably because they are not in that space, or probably they don't know about it. So then I feel dissociated. Then I try every day to associate myself. No, I have to get through it. I have to understand what is going on in me. I'll come back, explain again. Maybe they have not understood. I'll explain it again. So this is my personal story on it. And professionally, when I see it, like Sumita said, and very nicely explained by Yogini also, like she said, when a child comes to her, she does not, because of her experience with a certain kind of trauma, she understands what the child does. For me, it happens when a child comes and the child is not talking. What happens? I try to talk to the child, the parents interfere and they give their own explanation of the problem. So I tell them, okay, wait a minute, let me talk to the child. Let me see what the child has to say. Sometimes the child is a special child and the child has nothing to say. But like if we could have a friendly talk with him, we get much more information from him and a correct medicine can be prescribed for him. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Over to Joe with the same question. Have you ever felt associated or dissociated in your life? Or have you ever acknowledged or um, uh, come across this experience with your clients? Thank you.
Wondering now, hearing everybody, if this is something that I also experienced as a child. You can verify according to what you've said that I've missed.
Your voice is coming and going. Yes.
Is that better?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh no, I can't hear you. Could you say something, Anu?
Hi. You just
Oh, no, it's not working properly. Okay.
talk.
This is Crazy's phone. This is challenging. This is my association and disassociation. Okay, I'll try again. I think it's to do with these headphones. Better. Okay, great. So, so I had temper tantrums, and I think I was about maybe 8 years old. So obviously they usually happen with 3 or 4-year-olds. So I was taken to a child psychiatrist for help from my parents, and all I know about it was that the psychiatrist couldn't believe that I was this child that had temper tantrums because I was so quiet during the sessions and so well behaved that he didn't believe it. So I'm wondering if from what I've just heard from all of you, is that it was me dissociating and feeling that I wouldn't be believed. And I think the reason that I was having these tantrums was because I wasn't feeling that I was getting understood or getting my needs met by my parents. And it was really emotional needs. It was really the connection and the love and the reassurance that I wanted that I wasn't getting. And it would come and go. So then once that issue was over and I was maybe in the psychiatrist's office, then I was fine. I was happy at that time. But I'm wondering now, was I just disassociating from it all? Be interested to hear your views on that. Thank you.
So much. Thank you. Okay. So it's amazing how I didn't think, because ever since I felt I was dissociated, I happened to meet this amazing man, Carl Dawson. And so he brought a lot of understanding for me. And I thought that was child's play and everybody knew it. All three of you have opened up something for me new, that it's not such an easy concept to understand. So I'm going to try once more. And I completely get it that there are people who don't understand what that means and have never lived it. I will also quote my experience later, but I think it's important to understand the concept. Um, when we go through something traumatic, so let's say in my life, I went through trauma of being touched by a man who was old enough to be my grandfather. Did I understand at 6 that it was wrong? Did I understand it later that it was wrong? It was only when I turned 12 years of age, so the abuse went on from 6 to 12, that I put a stop to it. I walked away from there and never went back to that house. Even when my mom and dad would say, let's go there, I would say, I'm not going there. My mom would fight with me. Why can't you? You don't want to meet relatives. And I think that's left a mark in my life. If I'm not comfortable, I will not go because I can sense the danger beforehand. Now, after this, I buried these images. I knew something had happened. I knew something was wrong. But I buried these deep down because I knew that nobody was going to come and help me. Nobody was going to understand what I was talking about. It felt like I was talking Greek and Latin, and I was expecting help from adults who were of no use. So the adults did not take the place of being an authority in my life. Somewhere I had to draw the line, create that boundary, and move away, and took a lot of responsibility, which became part of my nature and part of protecting myself and others. Now, I got my memories back 12 years back. 12 years back, when I was sitting in Carl Dawson's first workshop, and he asked if anybody was interested in getting tapped on. Since we were sitting in Czech Republic where the language is Česky, there was no one who understood English. I understood English, and he requested if he could work on me. When he started working on me, it's when all these memories came out, which means I stayed in a dissociated place for I don't know how many years. I got married, I had children, I had no problems in my sexual life, but I just didn't remember. I had no anger, I had nothing. My life went on as normal. And when he started tapping on me, at some point, he was tapping, and I told him, don't touch me. And he thought I'm talking to my abuser. I was talking to him because he was touching me. He was tapping on me. So, Martha, the lady who had introduced me to him, he and Martha had a bet for the next day. Is Anu. So I said something like, you touch me once more and I will slap you. And he didn't understand. He went on tapping, and I kept on saying, don't, I will slap you. Now, the next day when I walked in, Martha said, I want to know who were you going to slap? So Martha said she was going to slap Carl Dawson, and Carl Dawson said she was going to slap the 65-year-old man in my memory. The reality was I was going to slap Carl Dawson. I'm very grateful to Carl Dawson. He never put out the footage of that video. I'm sure if that footage ever went out, you wouldn't be able to sit in the room and watch it, because I howled, cried, I was on the floor, and every time I howled, cried, had an abstraction, I was associated. Every time I could deal with the story, I was dissociated. So two Anus became from there, the one who was vulnerable, who was always the vulnerable Anu could have tears, and very few people could do that. If they touched me with their words or they appreciated me for something that had never got acknowledged, or if they understood that I was really going through pain. That was the time the tears would loudly fall off from my eyes, or I would be practically on the floor. I had no control over my body at that point. My whole body would shake. My whole body has gone through that. And when I was dissociated, I was perfectly fine. I was like a breeze to be with. I could manage the whole world. I could manage everything. So this vulnerable Anu was kept in hiding and was shut down by the strong Anu. And this went on for years, for years, for years, for years, till 2 years back. when I thought I had worked over it, I'd become a trainer, a master trainer in matrix reimprinting. And I went back again for my recertification when Carl Dawson's sister, Caroline, said, "Can I work on you? I know you had a difficult time." And I'd really worked on myself, written articles, worked on it, presented this case in front of a whole audience in in the conference of meta health, with a whole movie that was created around it for 3 minutes. And I spent my entire 10 years trying to cope up with this. And I thought I had done it. And then I go back, and Caroline starts working on me, and hell broke loose again. To the extent that I was abstracting, I couldn't move my head up, my arm was going every whichever way. But this time there was a difference. I didn't want to kill anyone. I was the person. The rage that I had in me, I had never known in my real life that I have so much of rage, that I was capable of doing something. So I generally don't like to talk about this part of it because it gives me goosebumps, that what am I capable of and what are we not capable of. I really believe that we are so dissociated at times that we don't even know what we are capable of. That there are parts of us which are hidden from us as little secrets. And it's not just that this just brings up bad memories. So let me give you another example. There was a bread that was being brought for addictions, and I was tapping on myself, and I remembered my grandfather getting bread for me. He was one of the safest person to be with. And it I basically understood how much he loved me. He looked very much, Joanne, like Kwesi, my grandfather from my mom's side. And so he would get bread, and it was called double roti at that time. And what was interesting, I could never eat bread after that session because it lost meaning. I always consumed bread when I missed him. So the paths that we dissociate is not just, it's like we cannot understand what the associations are, how we learn. It's it's a safety mechanism that we create for ourselves to cope up with life, because life has to go on. And you couldn't have gone on, I couldn't have gone on being vulnerable, abstracting everywhere, and not being myself. So the best way for me to deal with it was forget, shut that Anu down, put her in a box, and remove her only and only. So vulnerability was out of the charts. So this is my experience, and what matrix reimprinting did for me is it made me look at various aspects of my life. I have bawled I've like literally cried like a small 2-year-old. I've had literally a knife in my hand to kill this person with 3 people pulling me back, and I had strength to oppose all 3 men because that's how angry I was. So it's not funny when you're dissociated, but it's also not funny that you don't even know that you're dissociated or associated. So it's not so easy to talk about it. Sumita, there are various incidents that happened in your life. The one that you mentioned about the maid being on the bed and your room, and the series of other things happening in your life. And of course, the abuse bit. Did you ever at this point realize any time that you were not associated or not connected?
So anytime realize now that I'm not connected with them?
Yeah, back in time that you were not connected.
Yeah,
Maybe.
back in time, definitely, I was not connected at all. I mean, so that happened at that time. That memory has also gone away. Uh, the maid incident definitely was there because I had to undergo a lot of restrictions around that. So I still remember it quite, quite, in a way that yes, there were so many do's and don'ts for me as I was growing up, because it went for almost a year after that. But definitely the abuse story was just out of my mind, uh, out of memory at all. There was no, whenever I would remember my childhood till the time I worked with you, it never came up to my memory. So it was a total dissociation, definitely. And even if when it came up, it was difficult and hard for me to believe. So the picture came very clear in front of me, but so I couldn't still understand why, how could I forget it, because everything was around it I remembered, and I was not that small. So how did it go out of my memory? And then I understood the reason, that how this can happen. So if it has happened to me, I believe it can happen to anyone, all of us.
Yeah, we lose a part of us. Very simply, you just kind of, that part of you is not really lost, it's right there.
It's
But
right
you
there.
have an access to that part of you.
Yeah.
And there was a sequence in what things would happen. Like, I would feel vulnerable, and a strong Anu comes and stops her from getting vulnerable. And then I would get very creative. I could talk Shakespeare, I could write very well, I could paint very well, but there had to be a sequence for that to happen. So it's very interesting. If you ask me to write, I can't write a word. But if I've gone through something really that has touched my heart, and I probably wouldn't cry, and then it goes to being powerful or being very strong, then I will sit down and write or paint after that. So if I've painted and put something, then I've gone through the whole sequence. Anything to with you, Rashmi?
Anu, what is the question? Question.
Yes. Have you ever experienced this kind of thing in your life?
Yeah, many a times. There was a part of my life when I was, that was probably 8 to 10 years back, when my life was going roller coaster. And today I don't want to remember those parts, because whenever I remember those parts, they give me a sense of something like happening in my heart. So it's like it's दिल बैठ जाना कहते हैं जिसको हिंदी में, something like my heart is stopping, some
Thinking.
some pressure on my heart, yeah.
Yeah.
So those parts of my life, I don't want to remember at all. I keep myself dissociated, move on ahead. But somewhere I feel, rather than moving on, we should go and deal with it at times when they come as a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. But I must warn everybody, please do not sit down and try dealing with it on your own. Find good therapists. There are many, many therapists who do matrix imprinting. I'm one of them, but there are many, 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 and UK is full of the therapists right now who do matrix imprinting. Penny Corall is there. She's brilliant. You have so many of them. Uh, uh, and I will send names down if you want with their phone numbers or contact numbers. Do go and work with them.
For me, you are the best therapist, Anu.
Thank you so much. Just saying that there are many
That's information for others also.
and go explore, because this work is not just inner child work. It's not, it's beyond that. It's beyond comprehension what you can achieve or do. And from here, association and dissociation, I would also go to another aspect which is very, very important. Another therapy that can help, that one is matrix re-imprinting. The other therapy that really helps us to understand the areas which are subtle and so much of a secret that we don't know in a matrix that your family is family constellation. That just kind of changes the way you will look at everything. You, if you want to know why you are who you are, what's happening, who you are representing, and what was interesting, that we don't live our life. We don't live our life. We are living someone else's life. Go explore whose life was incomplete that you are substituting for them. Give you a simple example. There is not a single lady in my house who's got heart attack. And I got heart attacks, not heart attack, heart attacks, silent. When I went back tracing, I was so close to my grandfather, the one who looks like crazy, that he came down with heart attacks and he died suddenly. He passed away from this world, and I never got to meet him. I never got to see his body. I probably created a lot the way he does. And why is that? Because that's how you show loyalty to someone that you it's about who are you loyal to in this world. And maybe your traumas of association and dissociation have got nothing to do with you. It's a trauma. And then when I started exploring about my abuse, I realized my mom had gone through it, my nanny probably had gone through it, and nobody had opened their mouths. And then the worst was when I saw my daughter went through it, and I looked at her, and that was like, I just stood there and I said, oh my God, we think we broke a pattern. These are patterns. Like you look like someone, you live life of someone. You don't really live your own life. You associate so much with your family. You're so loyal to them that you're ready to give your right arm, left arm. Other than just looking at past life, look at this life and see whose life are you living. So over to Sumita, if you have any other therapy that you think could help, or you think any other experience is something that they could be utilizing, that would be brilliant. Thank you.
So definitely, when we are in this process of associating and dissociating, what I have learned, apart from EFT and Matrix, which I also practice, and they have given me wonderful results. So I also practice like to be in the present, like I usually talk. So it's the thing that ultimately you have to be into your present. You can associate, you can go back to those memories. You have dissociated with something, you go back to your past. But then if you are just shunting between the past and the future, ultimately it is your present what you are working on. So brain gym is a wonderful technique what I have experienced myself. I've been using that techniques. So that has really helped me to be, because of my pain and because of my because movement is something what our brain understands as a language. So I would
Does.
say movement is the key to learn. Even when we are doing matrix, or I mean tapping, it's a movement what we are doing. We are constantly making a kinetic energy flow. And even when we are in the field of matrix imprinting, we are asking the even the echo, what is he wearing or what is he doing. So we are constantly making a connection with the echo, and asking the echo what's going on in the mind of echo. Same way brain gym is also very much, it's basically a 26 basic exercises which you learn, and that then you are just making a very small shift inside yourself, which you become aware about. So it's more about noticing about first yourself, accepting what you have, and from there making a shift. So it's a very subtle thing, brain gym, what I do for myself, and I also in the process of teaching, that really helps the client to be in the present. Because ultimately, even if there is an anxiety, or even if there is something need to deal now, so how do I deal it with now? Ultimately the question comes. So that's a good thing what I have experienced in my way.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Also, research proves the more you move your hands, the more you can actually change the plasticity of your brain can keep growing. So they even talk about just knitting, just moving your hands to get out of the trauma, because your hands also go through fight and flight. And so that's again a very interesting research that has been proving, if you are stuck in a trauma, you must move your body. If your body is stuck, your mind has to move. If your mind is stuck, your body has to move. That's why gymming and all can, other than the happy hormones that the body secretes, it's also something else that it is doing. Over to Rashmi.
Sumita, I have a question for you, and I hope the viewers would also like to understand more about it. What is the
Yeah.
difference between brain gym in relation to neuroplasticity, as Anu said, or other modalities like gymming, normal gymming, or yoga, or walking, or other playing exercises? How are they different, and how does brain gym have an advantage in your opinion? I would like
So
to.
sure. So when I talk about brain gym, it is a set of 26 movement exercises, which is helping, the connection between the right and the left hemisphere definitely is happening at that time. And also it is helping you to connect to the various different parts of our brain, because we all know that our brain is connected to our body, all the body organs. But at the same time, there are so many cognitive, so we have the forebrain or the present brain. So the cortex, which is the prefrontal cortex brain, where all the cognition is happening. So reasoning, thinking, logical, understanding, that abilities are actually being helped out when we are doing brain gym, and also enhanced, I would say. And it is helping you in all aspects of your personality, not just about academics it would be, but it is also helping in different areas of your social, emotional, as well as physical connections. So it's definitely, I would say, not if better, but definitely it has an advantage, because here we are making a connection between the brain and the body. So as your body is moving, at the same time there are areas in the brain which are being in that movement connection, and that is where the connection is happening. So like we move in three directions, so brain gym exercises have been divided into the three dimensions, and all the three dimensions are helped out when you're doing that certain specific brain gym exercise. So it is just one exercise what you do will really, work in different ways to enhance those areas. And when we talk about neuroplasticity of the brain, it is basically that different neural connections which are being made in the brain, out of which we are doing. So like I use this therapy called read on, which I'm using mostly with kids right now, but it has also shown research that people with dementia or Parkinson's, at an age where their cognitive abilities have been really worked on, they're not able to do that connections, not able to read, not able to make any connections. They are like a game. Read on is like a game-based therapy online. So that software is actually people, they think they are playing the game, but actually, again, there's making a lot of cognitive connections in the brain. And the same principle applies of the neuroplasticity. So I would say brain gym is definitely a very subtle way of, first noticing in yourself. Because when we go to the gym and all, we don't really notice about ourselves, what's happening to me, how am I breathing, or how am I doing a certain thing. But then when you are noticing about yourself, and then when you are doing it, it's in a very active way. If a trainer is standing in front of me and I'm doing like 10 ups, I'm just making my arm pull up just because the trainer has told. Did I notice really what's happening? Did I really notice how it's affecting me? So brain gym is more about noticing. It is about really understanding, and it is nobody telling you. So that's a very fundamental rule of brain gym. So when I'm teaching a kid or a child, or even when I'm doing it for myself, it is not that I'm instructing you do this way. The way I will show you how it is, and then I'll ask you, do it the way you can do, because I give you the choice factor. And that's, I feel, is a very important thing, because the moment I keep instructing you, you go into a passive phase. You feel that I'm giving you and you have to follow me, and then there comes a lot of other emotional things. But in brain gym, you become the owner of the thing, and then you do it according to your way. Even if you're not doing it correctly, that's fine, but you understand that that's about noticing and making a change. So that's the main difference, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Joe, do you use any other specific therapy that could help association and dissociation? Thank you. You might have to remove, so you will not be able to hear us, but we'll be able to hear you.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so is that okay now? Yeah, this is just a symptom of today. This is about being disconnected from you all. So a couple of things I've realized from listening to you. And one is that I do a lot of EFT on myself. I used to do a lot of EFT with clients. And actually, what we're doing is we're getting out of that adult coping mechanism, that management, into the inner child through the EFT. And that's why we're getting such upheavals and breakdowns and breakthroughs. So I've really gained that awareness. What I do for myself is I do metakinetics on myself, so I do self-testing. And during that process, there's testing where you identify the problem. Loading is almost, I think from what you're saying, is really associating it up into the awareness. So you really focus on the problem that you've identified through the testing and tune into all the aspects of it whilst loading. It's almost like collecting the stress as if you're sweeping. And then in the correction phase, that's where you apply the therapy. And generally when I'm doing this on myself, I do EFT. That's usually what comes up. Two other things that I think are powerful, both have come to me from India, and particularly one of them from Anu. One is yoga practice. As Samita, you were just saying, it's about really noticing what's going on in the body. And I find the slow pace of yoga really allows that. It's different to gym work because it's like you're getting into the breath, you're really feeling the poses. So for me, that's really powerful. And then one of the other most powerful things for me was the sound healing that Anu led with Artie in Barcelona. And I couldn't believe what came up, but I was screaming, howling so much. I don't even know what it was about, but that was an extremely powerful healing. So I would say from that experience, the sound is maybe as powerful or leading to the movement's power. So
Thank
many
you so
things.
much
Thank
for
you.
that. Thank you so much. Yeah, sound is something that can really open up and take you to a place that has no control. You just, if you, I've seen many people with a lot of control issues, yet in front of the sound, that doesn't stay any longer. It doesn't. So Rashmi, over to you. Any therapies that you are using that help people with this association, dissociation?
Anu, first of all, I'd like to thank Joe for the insight. And secondly, Sumita, thank you so much because I've been doing yoga for a while, but sometimes to understand the thing, I ask this question. I'll come to the question, Anu, a bit later, but I wanted to acknowledge this. So while doing yoga, I was talking to my trainer today. So he said, no, you have to come to a second level now. Earlier, when you started with yoga about a month back, you were not able to move even. Now you're able to move, you are flexible. You have to take you to your second level and understand your body. And that is why when I understood from you that movement, you have to know why you are moving. So today he told me that you are stretching, but the part you are stretching, you have to be aware of only that part and let the other part of the body relax. So I said, okay. And I tried it for the first time. And I realized I have been becoming aware of other parts of my body. Besides those, I'm being aware of constantly in my problem or pain. So what I realized that, for example, if I have abdominal pain or I have abdominal flatulence, at that moment, constantly in the whole day, I am concentrating only on that part. But during that part of yoga, if I'm stretching one arm, my concentration goes on that arm also. So that particular part of the brain, which holds on to the arm or controls the arm, might be getting activated. That is why I wanted to understand that from you. Thank you so much. And yeah, Anu, I have found certain things which were really good. I am like Sumita said, movement is the key. So even in homeopathy, we find medicines why the person is stuck. For example, in my own case, I'm stuck. But I have to find why I'm stuck or where I'm stuck, not even why. Where, what, when, how. Just finding that stuck and finding a movement for it. I remember the movie Frozen. In Frozen, everything is frozen, But there is a small character who's made up of water, and he says water has memory. I have memory. So it is our memory in the form of water, which is there, which can help us to reconnect or reconnect back to the frozen elements and make it move. So water is the one who was moving all the time. So even if it is frozen, we still have a hope that okay, we can move that water element in us. That is what is my understanding. And regarding this, I I have found that certain exercises, like especially the neck, when we are relaxing the neck like this, we are probably activating our sternocleidomastoid and the trapezius muscles of the opposite side. So when these two muscles are relaxed, we we relax our neck and the head at times. So certain exercises are very important. And plus there is a therapy called sujok therapy, which is acupressure, something like acupressure of the hand. So I happened to do a small learning on it. I had been using it earlier, but off lately I'm not using it anymore. So when you press a certain point on your hand or on your finger, another organ, like I had a client about 3-4 days back. She had a very bad shoulder pain. She couldn't move her shoulder for the last 5-6 days. I said, okay, if you want to get well, just let me understand where the problem is. So I just took the sujok needle and it's called a Jimmy, and I just put in, use certain points. Within 5 minutes, she said, I don't have pain. And it's been 4 days, she doesn't have pain at all. So where we are stuck, we can also understand from our palms where we are stuck. And interestingly, she had pain in the shoulders, but her stuck point was found in the hip region. I just intuitively did that, and then I realized, am I doing some mistake? Oh, that's the hip point. Why am I using it on? Then I saw her face. She got better. I said, okay, that's not intuitively I'm doing. It's probably my body directing me to know it's there is something else to it, not only the shoulder. So these therapies are really, really very good because they help us get out of the stuck feeling. It is probably reactivating the colloid factor or the water factor in us.
So, when you're talking about water factor, it's worth mentioning that the water is not just in three forms but in four
Four.
forms, called the easy water. And this is something that I had found out from the Nest people, information medicine, many, many years back. There was I think there is a recording of this that I did for Health Library around water many, many years back. It must be about 8 years back that I did recording for them on the same. But they, in the NES program, they spoke very interestingly with us and said that the fourth stage of water, which is called the easy water, is the one that gets charged and has got positive and negative, and it is the one that is so important in our body. And again, as you said, water carries memory. Yes, our body and everything in our body carries memory. So part of, we don't even know that we don't know how many areas of ourselves are disassociated. We just feel we know it all. We don't know it all, and we probably will never know it all, because if our conscious allows us to know it all, we don't know our past lives. We don't know what's happened. We don't remember everything. Everywhere where you don't remember does not mean that you're dissociated. It also means that it's sitting somewhere over there, and it just needs to be rediscovered back if it is required. The other part that you spoke about, the hip part, and it's called the referral pain. And that again is the work that can be done with my health. And we've seen that the referral pain is always connected with something that is connected somewhere. So you might have pain here, but it could be connected to the knee. This is a lot of work that Rose Heyman did at that point, and Cyril Brook did, and uh, brilliant people. Rose Heyman is not there in this world anymore, so acknowledging her right now for what she taught. But yes, it can, you can bring life back into people's body with a device called My Health. And right now there's also another device that's there in the market. It's called Haley. And so there are a lot of stuff. There is a lot of stuff that can bring you back. First part is to believe and accept that there is a problem. The second part is the readiness to really work on yourself. I really wanted to introduce that there's a whole bouquet of therapies out there. And there are people who will get benefited by metakinetics. I mean, I've seen Robert Wagmari do some amazing work with Joe. I've seen the kind of, in fact, in Egypt, he worked on me, and it wasn't easy for him because I don't make an easy client, and I'm not proud of that. But that's how it has been. Joe was there in the same room, and I remember I walked back into my room. I refused to come back after that because the work that they did was so deep. I don't remember what the work was because you generally forget. It's called the apex effect, because if you don't forget, you will not be able to live with it. So I remember carrying that paper, and that paper must be kept still somewhere in my files, because it's nice to go back and look as to where you were and how you moved across the space and time and in your own body and mind. So, like I said, there are a lot of therapies, awareness of these therapies being there, acceptance that you have a problem and you want to release it. And last but not the least, the action. And if you don't take that action, no one else can take that for you. And so I would request the audience today, it's not just a psychological problem being dissociated, it's a very normal mechanism to help you to live your life fully and completely. If you feel that there is a part of your life that's stunted, and we all have that part of, I was telling my sister today morning, life comes to bite you. The area that you are not equipped in, it will make sure that you get equipped in before you leave this planet Earth. Or then you can continue in the next life living the same story. You have a choice to learn everything back from A, B, C, D, taking another life, or doing it right now. So that's where I conclude. Let's go over to Joanne and see what is the kind of conclusion that she can come up to right now. Thank you. You'll have to remove.
Sorry, I feel very heartened by two things that you've just said, Anu, just writing them down here. So one is that sometimes we don't remember things because, not because we've disassociated, but because we just don't need them anymore. Because I've been feeling this almost grief for my past, that I can't remember everything, but it is there. And as I was saying with the stress loading or the EFT, sometimes these things bubble up, even with music. So I'm very heartened that they're there if we need them. And then also this idea that the areas of life that we're feeling stunted, that we are going to grow. It's going to happen to us. It's going to come. I actually feel quite excited about that now. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Rashmi, Dr. Rashmi.
Thank you, Anu. And first of all, let me tell the viewers, I have seen that video of yours about water, and it's a beautifully explained video, and very, very interesting and very insightful. So, and this work on water has also been done by a scientist called Dr. Gerald Pollack.
It is
And
his it is his work that I
it,
will be presenting at that time.
yeah,
Yeah.
he says that water which flows in our all life cells is in a gel form. So he
Yeah.
says there are three states of water: solid, liquid, gas, and gel
4 states.
form. Yeah, for this is the fourth state. Gel is the fourth state of
Yeah.
water. I have been dealing with the certain types of water for beauty purposes, and I use them and with lot of I mean on hair, on beauty products for my clients, and I have found very good results. Secondly, I wanted to ask Joe if it would be, I mean, it's just an interest. Your choice is yours. In the upcoming any conversations of ours, it would be very nice if you could introduce metakinetics to us, like the way Sumita introduced Brain Gym to us. So if we introduce what we are using, people will be more aware and be benefited. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Very nice. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Rashmi.
And my conclusion to this topic is, day by day, I am getting wiser.
And my joke on that is, as you become wiser, the wisdom tooth just leave your mouth. Sorry.
No, 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 no. I'm not ready to go back into the ABC. I'm going to keep them intact and live them in this life only.
Over to Sumita.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think John has beautifully shown us the example of association and dissociation whenever she would talk. So she will take it out, and it's the headphones. It's a live example what she was showing us in this very session. So beautiful insight, and definitely I would say it's a part of your life. It's a part of the brain mechanism. It's a part of how our brain functions. There are memories which we connect to. There are event situations and which we don't connect to. Whatever it is, I feel it has a meaning. Till the time you are associated with something, it has a meaning. Till the time suddenly you become dissociated, and maybe later you become associated, everything has a meaning. So take life as it comes, and whenever it comes, I think when the right time comes, you will get that dissociation also into association, and vice versa. And that's the wonderful insight I have gone from today's session. Thank you.
Can I add something, Anu?
Please.
Thank you so much. This reminds me what Sumita was talking about, Joe's example of the earphones. That reminds me of something very practical. So I was dealing with a client about 8 years back or 7 years back. So this girl who was around 20 years of age had a challenging time with her father. Every time she would go. I mean, she would talk to her father. There would be a tiffle, and both of them would walk away. So when I was working on that, I don't remember the exact details what happened or not. But then what we worked on that time, we said, okay, we will find earphones for you. So what are these earphones? These earphones are imaginary headphones like the ones I have. When the father would talk, she just had to stop for a minute, for a second, and bring down her earphones like this. Visualize as if her headphones are on her ears. And and then I asked her, "What is your choice of music?" She gave her choice of music. I said, "Okay, just that fraction of second, you are going to bring them down, put in your music, and then talk to your father." So after a couple of days, she came back to me and she said, "You are a witch." I said, "What?" She said, "I am telling you, you are a witch." I said, like that day we were discussing the negative and the positive connotations. I said, "What happened?" She said, "You gave me those earphones. She said, "You gifted me those earphones." I said, "Yes." She said, "You know what? How I took them as an advantage was whenever my father would talk, I would bring them down. So then after my father would keep on speaking and I would have my own music to my own self. That is how she associated with herself, where she was dissociating. And then after a couple of seconds, his father would keep on speaking and she had no reaction, absolutely. And then she asked him, "Would you like to have a cup of tea or water?" Just looked at her and he said, "What's happening to you?" There is no reaction. So that way I remembered this incident. I thought it's worth to share. Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you so much. I would just say this, guys. Dil pe mat le yaar. Picture abhi baki hai. So we are not going to be having a talk tomorrow. I am extremely busy tomorrow. And I don't want to do a talk at 11 at night. I could, if everybody's ready to. I'm fine with it. But I have no time in the morning tomorrow because I am busy giving some time to my son, and he needs that time. So yeah, I mean, even our 27, 28-year-old needs time sometimes. So that's his time tomorrow. And we will meet again on Sunday in the evening at 5 o'clock. And since the challenge has dropped, we don't have to go so rigid, but we'll still continue to come across with you. And so one day break, that's after 18 sessions. And then we'll just go on with the trail. The topic for the evening 5 o'clock Sunday is, what makes you feel respected? What is it? What's this respect about? In Indian culture, you have so many people touching each other's feet, going to God, putting tikkas and all kinds of things. Is that really respect? Or do you have to speak in a certain way to feel respected, do something to feel respected? Is it cultural? What's this respect all about? I would really feel nice if people on the Facebook could put the questions down for respect, so that we could look at the various aspects of respect. I will also make sure that I put the video down of the water that everybody was, Rashmi was talking about. And it would be nice, Smita, if you can put about the brain gym, and it would be really great, Joe, if you can put it about metakinetics. Where can they go to find these therapies? I will also make sure that I put something around the matrix reimprinting. So it's not just words you can go and read, because this time is not enough to bring in all the therapies, but it would be really great if you can have that information and browse through it. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you, Smita. Thank you.